Are you tired of feeling invisible? Of pouring your heart and soul into people who give you nothing but emptiness in return? Have you ever felt that knot in your stomach, that spiritual exhaustion after being around those who simply don't value your presence? What if I told you there's a powerful secret, a profound teaching from the legendary psychologist Carl Jung that could shatter this painful cycle forever? Imagine waking up without that heavy weight on your chest, finally free from the need to prove your worth to people who will never recognize it. This isn't just a fantasy. It's the true path to psychological and spiritual liberation, and we are going to unlock it right now. But before we dive into this life-changing wisdom, I have a small but important request. I've noticed that a huge number of you who find value in these videos haven't subscribed yet. If you're ready to reclaim your power, take 1 second to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give this video a like. It's a powerful signal to yourself that you're committed to this journey. And as we begin, do me a favor. Comment below what city or country you're watching from. I want to see just how far the light of Carl Jung's teachings is spreading across the globe. Now prepare yourself, because what you are about to discover will not only change your relationships, but will fundamentally transform your relationship with yourself. Every time you allow someone to devalue you, you are severing a connection to your own soul, but today, that ends. To know yourself, Jung said, is the beginning of all wisdom. But this knowledge is not theoretical. It is visceral, deeply personal. It implies recognizing not only our strengths, but also our shadows, those parts of us that we prefer to keep hidden. And it is precisely by integrating these shadows that we begin to see clearly which people and situations in our life are feeding our growth and which are hindering it. The Jungian theory of individuation shows us that each person is on a continuous journey towards their true self. This process is not linear or simple. It is full of challenges, contradictions, and moments of deep introspection. But what many do not understand is that this journey becomes virtually impossible when we are surrounded by people who do not respect our essence, who constantly push us to be who we are not, or who simply do not see our value. Have you ever wondered why it seems so difficult to walk away from someone you know does not value you? Jung had a fascinating explanation for this. According to him, often what keeps us trapped in these relationships is not love, but projection. We project unresolved aspects of our own psyche onto others. Perhaps that person who belittles you activates an old childhood wound, a moment when you felt unworthy of love or recognition. Or perhaps their presence in your life is a reflection of your own difficulty in valuing yourself. This understanding does not seek to blame you for staying in relationships that hurt you, but to give you the power to transform them, or if necessary, to let them go. Because according to Jung, every time you have the courage to walk away from those who do not appreciate you, you are not only protecting your energy, you are taking a crucial step in your process of individuation. You are declaring to the universe and to yourself that you deserve more, that you recognize your intrinsic worth. And here comes the really fascinating part. When you finally free yourself from relationships that do not nourish you, something extraordinary begins to happen. The space that these people leave does not remain empty for long. According to the Jungian theory of synchronicity, the universe seems to conspire to bring into your life exactly what you need at the precise moment. People who recognize your light, opportunities that previously seemed unattainable, and an inner clarity that transforms your perception of the world. This is not magic, nor superficial positive thinking. It is the result of a deep psychological realignment. When you stop wasting energy trying to demonstrate your worth to those who will never see it, that same energy becomes available for your growth, for your dreams, for what truly resonates with your soul. Jung described it as a process of freeing the libido, that vital force that, when properly reoriented, can transform not only your inner world, but also your external reality. However, this path is not without its challenges. The fear of loneliness, attachment to the familiar, even if it is painful, and doubts about our own worth, can make us hesitate. Jung was very aware of this. The encounter with oneself, he wrote, is one of the most unpleasant experiences one can face, because it implies seeing not only the potential you have ignored, but also the ways in which you have allowed others to belittle you. But do not be discouraged. And one that also reminds us that in all chaotic situations there is a hidden order. Even in that uncomfortable period, when you walk away from those who do not appreciate you, but have not yet found new connections, there is a purpose. It is a time of recalibration, of reconnection with yourself, of rediscovering who you are when you are not constantly trying to win the approval of others. Think about the relationships you currently have in your life. Which ones make you feel seen, valued, and understood? And which ones leave you with the feeling that you are never enough? Jung encourages us to make this inventory without judgment, but with absolute honesty, because only when we recognize the truth of our current situation can we take the necessary steps to transform it. This process of discernment is not always easy. Sometimes, the people who do not appreciate us are close family members, partners of many years, or friends who have been in our lives since childhood. The idea of moving away from them may seem unthinkable, even frightening, but Jung reminds us that a truly lived life always implies letting go of what no longer serves us. It is not about blaming others, but about recognizing that some connections have simply completed their cycle in our lives. Interestingly, Jung observed that often the act of setting clear boundaries or even moving away from those who do not value us does not lead to the conflict we so fear. On the contrary, it can catalyze a transformation in the relationship when you are no longer available to be belittled, when your energy no longer feeds unbalanced dynamics. The people around you have two options: adapt to this new reality or walk away, and either one is a favorable outcome for your well-being. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to wake up every morning, knowing that every person in your life is there because they genuinely appreciate who you are. Imagine the freedom of being able to express yourself without fear of rejection, of sharing your dreams, without fear of ridicule, of being completely yourself without excuses. According to Jung, this is not an unattainable fantasy, but the natural state to which we can all aspire when we have the courage to consciously choose our relationships. This courage, however, is not born overnight. It is the result of continuous inner work. Jung was a firm believer in introspection, in what he called the dialogue with the unconscious. Through practices such as dream analysis, active imagination, and reflective meditation, we can strengthen our connection with our inner wisdom. And it is this wisdom that will guide us with unequivocal certainty about who we should keep in our lives and from whom we should distance ourselves. A particularly powerful aspect of Jungian psychology is its understanding of archetypes, those primordial images that reside in our collective unconscious. One of these archetypes is the shadow, which represents everything that we repress or deny in ourselves. Jung observed that we often tolerate relationships that do not nourish us because we have not integrated aspects of our own shadow. For example, if you have repressed your ability to set clear boundaries, you are likely to find yourself surrounded by people who constantly cross those boundaries. If you have denied your own worth, you will attract relationships where others also do not recognize it. Not because you attract what you are, as some simplistic philosophies suggest, but because what you have not integrated into your consciousness will continue to manifest in your external life until you recognize and assimilate it. This recognition is liberating. It means that you have the power to transform your relationships, not only by moving away from those who do not appreciate you, but also by doing the necessary internal work so as not to attract similar situations in the future. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. But how do you really know if someone does not appreciate you? Jung offers us some valuable clues. People who genuinely value us help us to grow, challenge us in constructive ways, and celebrate our achievements without envy or condescension. They recognize both our light and our shadows, and accept us in our totality. On the other hand, those who do not appreciate us often make us feel inadequate. They criticize us constantly, minimize our achievements, and most revealingly, leave us with a feeling of exhaustion after interacting with them. This last point is crucial. Jung was one of the first psychologists to recognize the reality of what we would today call energetic vampires. people who consciously or unconsciously drain our vitality. If after spending time with someone you feel inexplicably exhausted, confused, or with low self-esteem, your unconscious is sending you a clear message. This person, for now, is not contributing positively to your well-being. Now, moving away from those who do not appreciate you does not always mean cutting off contact completely, although sometimes it is necessary. Jung was a proponent of balance and moderation. In some cases, you simply need to set clearer boundaries, reduce the time you spend with certain people, or change the nature of the relationship. The key is in the conscious intention, in the deliberate decision to protect your energy and your inner peace. And here we come to one of Jung's most fascinating concepts, the idea that our external relationships are a reflection of our internal relationship. According to him, the way others treat us is, to a large extent, a mirror of how we treat ourselves. This does not mean that it is your fault if someone belittles you, but that the deepest and most lasting change always begins from within. When you begin to treat yourself with the respect, kindness, and consideration you deserve, you send an unequivocal message to the world. This is what I accept in my life. And, astonishingly, the world responds. The people who cannot or will not align with this new standard will naturally move away, while those who resonate with your new energy will feel more drawn to you. This transformation does not happen overnight. Jung reminds us that the path to our goal is not straight. It is more like the path of a zigzagging serpent. There will be advances and setbacks, moments of clarity and periods of confusion. You could walk away from a relationship that did not nourish you only to find yourself in a similar one. This is not a failure. It is part of the learning process, an opportunity to deepen your understanding of yourself. The important thing is to keep that connection with your inner wisdom alive, that silent but powerful voice that always knows what is best for you. Jung called it the self, the organizing center of the psyche, which constantly guides us towards our fullness. The more you learn to listen to this voice, the easier it will be to recognize who truly belongs in your life and who is simply passing through it to teach you something. And here comes the truly transformative part. When you free yourself from relationships that do not honor your essence, you not only experience immediate relief. According to Jung, you are creating the necessary space for what he called synchronicity, those seemingly random but deeply meaningful moments that seem orchestrated by the universe itself. Suddenly, people appear who resonate with your true being. Opportunities that you could not even imagine before, and a sense of purpose that transcends the everyday. It is as if the universe were waiting for you to have the courage to claim your worth, to demand to be treated with the respect you deserve in order to reveal what is truly destined for you. Not because there is some predetermined plan, but because, as Jung discovered, there is a deep connection between our inner world and the reality we experience externally. Think of all the times you have stayed in a situation that you knew was not good for you. Perhaps a one-sided friendship, a romantic relationship where you did not feel valued, or even a toxic family environment. And what if all this time, while you were clinging to the known for fear of the unknown, the universe was preparing something much better for you? And what if those people you had such a hard time letting go of were, without knowing it, occupying the place destined for those who will truly celebrate your light? Jung teaches us that we are not destined for lives of relational mediocrity, to settle for crumbs of affection or recognition. On the contrary, we were designed for deep, authentic, and mutually enriching connections. But achieving these connections requires courage. The courage to look honestly at what no longer serves us, to set clear boundaries, and when necessary, to walk away completely. This process can be painful. People who do not appreciate your worth will often react negatively when you start to set boundaries. They may accuse you of being selfish, of having changed, or even try to manipulate you into returning to previous patterns. Jung reminds us that these reactions are natural and expected. They do not indicate that you are doing something wrong, but quite the opposite. They are signs that you are reclaiming your power. What many do not understand is that moving away from those who do not appreciate you is not an act of rejection of the other, but an act of self-love. And paradoxically, this self-love is the foundation of any healthy relationship. As Jung pointed out, You cannot give what you do not have. If you do not value yourself, you cannot expect to receive genuine appreciation from others. If you do not respect your own boundaries, you cannot expect others to respect them. And here is another deep truth. When you finally walk away from those who do not appreciate you, you are not only freeing yourself in a certain sense, you are also giving those people the opportunity to grow, to face their own patterns, and perhaps to evolve. Jung firmly believed that all our relationships have a purpose, that every person who enters our life brings with them a lesson. Sometimes, the most powerful lesson we can offer someone is the establishment of a clear boundary. Have you ever wondered why certain negative dynamics repeat themselves over and over again in different relationships throughout your life? Jung had a fascinating answer, what he called complexes. These are emotionally charged patterns that were formed mainly in our childhood and that continue to influence our adult relationships without us being fully aware of it. For example, if you grew up in an environment where your worth depended on what you could give or do for others, it is likely that you have developed what we could call a service complex. This unconscious pattern predisposes you to attract and be attracted to people who only value you for what you can offer them, not for who you are, essentially. Until this complex becomes conscious and begins to integrate, it will continue to manifest in your relationships. This is where Jung's work becomes truly revolutionary. It shows us that moving away from those who do not appreciate us is not just a momentary act of self-protection, but the beginning of a profound internal transformation. It is an opportunity to identify and begin to heal these complexes, to rewrite those old narratives that have kept us trapped in cycles of devaluation. And the most beautiful thing of all is that, as you advance on this path, the process becomes more and more natural. You begin to recognize immediately when someone is not aligned with your energy, when a relationship is not reciprocal, when an environment does not honor your essence. You no longer need to wait months or years of suffering to realize that something is not right. Your intuition, that internal compass that Jung so valued, becomes more precise and reliable. This inner clarity is one of the greatest gifts you receive when you finally free yourself from relationships that do not nourish you. You no longer spend energy trying to decipher confusing behaviors or justify unfair treatment. Instead, that energy is available for your growth, for your passions, for the people and projects that truly resonate with your soul. It is important to remember that this process is not about dividing the world into good and bad, or judging those who could not appreciate your worth. Jung was very aware of human complexity and encouraged us to see every relationship, even the painful ones, as learning opportunities. Every person who enters our life is, in a sense, a mirror that shows us aspects of ourselves that we need to recognize and integrate. Sometimes the person who does not appreciate you today could appreciate you tomorrow, after their own growth process. Or perhaps you are simply at different stages of your personal evolution. And what seems like a lack of appreciation is actually a temporary incompatibility. Jung teaches us to keep an open mind and heart, not to absolutize our perceptions, to always remember that we are all in a continuous process of becoming. But this openness should not be confused with permissiveness or a willingness to tolerate disrespectful treatment. Jung was very clear about this. Love and respect for oneself are non-negotiable. If someone consistently makes you feel less, if they minimize your achievements, if they ignore your needs, or if, in any way, they do not recognize your intrinsic worth, it is perfectly valid and even necessary to establish a clear boundary or to move away completely. And here we come to one of Jung's most beautiful concepts, the idea of the hard-to-reach treasure. According to him, what we yearn for most, in this case, relationships that truly honor our essence, is often found just on the other side of our greatest fears. The fear of loneliness, of being judged, of not being enough by ourselves. These fears keep us trapped in relationships that do not nourish us. But when we have the courage to face them, to go through them, we discover that what awaits us on the other side is more beautiful than we could have imagined. Imagine waking up every morning surrounded only by people who genuinely celebrate your existence, people who see your light and your shadows and accept you in your totality. People with whom you can be completely yourself, without fear of judgment or rejection. This is not an unattainable dream. According to Jung, it is our natural state to which we return when we have the courage to clear our space of energies that do not resonate with our truth. The path to this state may seem lonely at first. When you start to set clear boundaries, when you start to demand to be treated with respect, it is possible that some people will walk away. But Jung reminds us that loneliness does not come from not having anyone around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. And paradoxically, it is only when you allow yourself to move away from those who do not value what is important to you that you create the space for those who will. And now let me ask you a direct question. What are you waiting for? What keeps you tied to people who do not celebrate your light, who do not honor your path, who do not recognize your intrinsic worth? Is it fear, guilt, a false sense of loyalty, or perhaps the unconscious belief that you do not deserve more? Jung invites you to examine these questions with radical honesty, but without judgment, because each of us is exactly where we need to be on our own journey. There are no mistakes, only experiences that guide us to a greater understanding of ourselves. And if at this moment you find yourself surrounded by people who do not appreciate who you really are, perhaps that is exactly the lesson you need to learn, that you deserve more, that you are worthy of relationships that reflect your worth. The first step is always recognition. Recognize where you are, who is in your life, and how these people make you feel. The next step is responsibility, not blame, but the ability to respond consciously instead of reacting automatically. And finally, action, the concrete steps you take to realign your external life with your internal truth. These steps do not have to be dramatic. You do not need to make grandiose announcements or cut ties abruptly, although sometimes that is exactly what is needed. Often, the change begins subtly, by setting small boundaries, dedicating less time to certain people, investing more energy in relationships that nourish you, practicing the art of saying no with kindness but firmness. The important thing is the intention, the conscious decision to no longer tolerate less than you deserve. Because as Jung reminds us, personality cannot develop unless the individual chooses their own path consciously and with moral deliberation. Choosing to walk away from those who do not appreciate you is precisely that. A conscious choice, an act of moral deliberation, a decided step on the path to your true being. And now, allow me to share with you a truth that perhaps no one else has told you. You deserve to be celebrated, not merely tolerated. You deserve to be seen in your totality, not just in the parts that are convenient for others. You deserve relationships where giving and receiving are in a natural balance, not dynamics where you constantly have to prove your worth. And above all, you deserve the inner peace that comes from knowing that every person in your life is there because they genuinely appreciate who you are, not what they can get from you. This truth may seem simple, even obvious, but in a world that constantly pushes us to please, to fit in, to sacrifice ourselves for others without consideration for our own well-being, it can be revolutionary. Jung understood this deeply. He saw how modern society, with its emphasis on appearances and external success, increasingly distances us from our essential nature, from our deepest needs. Therefore, carefully choosing who remains in your life is not an act of selfishness, as some might suggest. It is an act of authenticity, of alignment with your deepest truth. It is a recognition of your intrinsic worth, of your fundamental right to be treated with respect and consideration. And ultimately, it is a gift you give to yourself. The gift of peace, clarity, and freedom that comes from being surrounded only by energies that lift you up. So today, I invite you to take that first step. Observe your life with fresh eyes. Ask yourself, who really sees me? Who celebrates my achievements without envy? Who is present in both my moments of light and my moments of shadow? And more importantly, who do I feel drained by after interacting with them? Who constantly makes me doubt my worth? Who seems unable to appreciate the unique gifts I bring to the world? The answers to these questions will show you the way forward. And although this path may seem challenging at first, I promise you that what awaits you on the other side is more beautiful than you can imagine now. A world where you are valued for who you really are. A world where your relationships nourish you instead of draining you. A world where you can finally breathe, expand, and flourish in all your magnificence. As Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakes. Today is your day to awaken, to recognize your worth, to commit to relationships that honor your essence, and to release with gratitude and compassion those who cannot or will not accompany you on this journey. If this message resonated with you, if you felt that spark of recognition as you listened, I invite you to share it with someone who might need it. We all know people who are trapped in relationships that do not allow them to shine, who constantly doubt their worth because they are surrounded by those who cannot appreciate it. Your act of sharing could be exactly the light they need to find their own way. And if you are in that place right now, if you feel unvalued, unseen, unappreciated, I want you to know that you are not alone, that this feeling is not a reflection of your worth, but simply a sign that it is time to make some changes, that you have within you everything you need to take that first step towards a life full of relationships that celebrate you in all your magnificence. Remember the words of Jung, be who you were meant to be, and you will set your soul on fire. That fire, that light that you carry inside, deserves to be seen, appreciated, and celebrated. And when you finally allow yourself to walk away from those who cannot or will not see it, you create the perfect space for those who will. Those who will not only see your light, but who will reflect it back to you, constantly reminding you of the extraordinary person you truly are. Thank you for being here, for listening, for taking this step on your journey. If this message touched something in you, let me know in the comments what resonated most deeply. And do not forget to subscribe for more content that helps you live a more authentic, fuller, and more aligned life with your true essence. Together, we can create a world where each of us is truly valued for who we are. Remember that your unconscious is always trying to guide you to fullness. Those feelings of discomfort, those recurring dreams, that inner voice that tells you that you deserve more, are not coincidences. They are messages from your soul, seeking to align you with your true destiny. Jung dedicated his life to teaching us to listen to these signs, to trust that inner wisdom that we all possess. Think for a moment what your life would be like if you were only surrounded by people who encourage you to be more yourself, not less. People who see your potential, even when you cannot see it, who celebrate your victories as their own, who support you in your moments of doubt without judging you. According to Jung, this reality is within reach of all of us, but it requires an act of courage, the courage to let go of what no longer serves us. It is fascinating how the human psyche works. We often cling to relationships that hurt us because on an unconscious level, they represent something familiar. Jung called this the mother complex or the father complex, patterns of relationship that we established in our childhood and that we continue to recreate in our adult life, even when they no longer serve us. But consciousness has a transformative power. Once you recognize these patterns, they no longer have the same control over you. And the most wonderful thing is that as you free yourself from these limiting dynamics, your vital energy, what Jung called libido, is naturally redirected towards what truly nourishes you. Suddenly you have more creativity, more mental clarity, more capacity to manifest your dreams. It is as if you have been dragging an invisible weight for years and finally you can run free. Remember that, according to Jung, there are no accidents on our path. The people who do not appreciate us also have a purpose in our life, to show us where we need to heal, where we need to set clearer boundaries, where we need to reclaim our power. When you can see this, you can even feel gratitude for those who have shown you, through contrast, what you truly deserve. The real transformation occurs when you stop seeking external validation and start to nourish yourself from within. Jung described this process as the conjunction, the moment when your conscious being and your unconscious being align, creating a sense of fullness that no external approval could ever match. And from this place of totality, you naturally attract relationships that reflect this new frequency. Have you noticed how some people seem to have a radar for detecting who will allow them to cross their boundaries? This is not a coincidence. Jung explained that we unconsciously project our vulnerabilities, and those with intentions not aligned with our well-being can perceive them. But when you commit to honoring your worth, when you refuse to accept less than you deserve, that radar stops working. You are no longer a target for those who seek to take without giving. And so, we arrive not at an end, but at a powerful new beginning. Remember, this journey is yours alone, a path of radical self-discovery with no rigid rules, only the courageous decisions that pull you closer to your true essence. Never forget the words of Carl Jung that we unlocked today. What you deny submits you. What you accept transforms you. Your need to be valued, respected, and truly seen is not a weakness. It is a fundamental part of your humanity. By accepting this truth, you begin to forge the most important relationship of all, the one with yourself. This is the model for every other connection in your life. When you learn to honor your own needs, you teach the world how to treat you. That, my friend, is true freedom. The freedom to live from your center, surrounded only by those who celebrate your magnificent light. This liberation is waiting for you, just on the other side of the decision you may have been postponing. The decision to finally declare, I deserve more, I deserve better, and from this day forward, I will not accept less. If this message has ignited a fire within you, I want you to do something powerful. In the comments below, write this declaration, I deserve to be celebrated. Let's fill this space with an undeniable wave of self-worth. Share your story, your victories, and your journey with our growing community. And if you felt a shift while watching this, please, don't let this be a one-time event. A surprising number of people who watch our videos haven't subscribed yet. By clicking that subscribe button and hitting the like button, you're not just helping the channel. You're making a commitment to your own transformation and ensuring you don't miss the deeper teachings to come. Thank you for allowing me to be your guide on this incredible journey. Until the next video, remember the truth that now lives within you. You deserve to be celebrated, not merely tolerated.